Here's what I'd do to fix pain and injuries in 2025 if I was starting training in January. I know a lot of you guys out there that watch my channel are suffering with shoulder pain, with knee pain, with hip pain. You want to get strong, you want to get flexible, you want to perform well in your sports, but your aches and pains are holding you back. Well, this is what I would do to start 2025 to fix all of that. And why should you listen to me? I'm 46 years old. I've had a slap tear in both shoulders. I've had golfer's elbow, tennis elbow. I've had a torn meniscus. I've torn my Lisfranc ligament, and yet I am in the best shape of my life, and I'm able to do everything that I want to be able to do when it comes to strength and flexibility training without any pain holding me back from those injuries. And the only surgery I ever had was surgery on my foot. And that was when I was 20, and I did not know what I know now. But that said, that was a complete tear of the Lisfranc ligament. And surgery was the best option for that because the ligament was completely severed, and the only way for it to grow back was for them to put a bolt in my foot and allow it to grow back. But every other injury that I've had, I've fixed without surgery, and I am completely pain-free. And I can help you do the same thing because you don't need to be living a life where you are in pain all the time. So if that's you, if that's somebody that's just tired of these old aches and pains and you want to get back to doing what you love, without pain, without injuries in 2025, then this episode is for you. And I should say, Merry Christmas, everybody. This is my first podcast, my first live stream since Christmas. I've had a tiny little bit of a break, so I hope you guys all had a wonderful break. I hope you had a wonderful time with your family. It is the 30th of December here in Australia, so it's just crazy. I can't believe it. 2 days until 2025, you know. You always say that the older you get, right? Like, where does time go? It just seems to fly by like that. But when you've got young children like I do, it absolutely does. And before you know it, Christmas is here. And then before you know it, it's the new year and you're getting ready for school again. So before I get into this episode, before I share what strategy I think is going to be best for you in 2025, I'll get the boring stuff out of the way. And I'll let you guys know that right now, we have an incredible offer for you if you want to join our UMS online coaching. Back on Black Friday, we offered our UMS online coaching for 20 people at a 38% discount. So it was a huge discount. It's normally $79 a month. We offered it for $49 a month. And the 20 spots sold out in 6 days. And we had a lot of people asking us to extend it. A lot of people were saying that they overextended themselves too much on Black Friday, buying things like televisions and Xboxes and a lot of stuff that really doesn't benefit your life. It seems nice in the moment. It seems like, yeah, I'd love to have this nice big TV that's, you know, at a 50% discount, but then you get it and you realize that your life hasn't gotten any better from it. So this is something that can actually improve your life. And because we had so many people reach out to us and ask us to do it again, we've decided to offer it again. So it's available until the 9th of January. You can join up and get our UMS online coaching at that huge discounted rate, but only for the first 20 people. And we've already sold 6 of them. So if that's you, if you want to get online coaching in 2025, if you want to, like everything that I'm about to share with you now, if you want to just be able to have it done for you and not have to figure it out for yourself, then this is for you. And if you want that, just go to unitygym.com/UMS-discount. unitygym.com/UMS-discount, and you can grab a sweet deal. All right, let's get into it. Let's get into the topic. Let's get into the education. Let me share with you what I would do if I was dealing with injuries and aches and pains so that I would not be in pain for 2025. And give me a shout out if you're watching. I can see we've got a bunch of people on the live stream so that I know that I'm not alone and so that I can say hi and know where you are in the world. I'm in Australia here and it is 5:37 a.m. So it's very, very early. So say hi from wherever you are so that I can say hello back. All right. So the first thing that I would do is I would come up with a workout plan that means that I don't have to think about what I'm doing. So that is number one. Don't go into the gym thinking, oh, I'm going to try and do this today, or I'm going to try and do that today. You need a plan, you need a strategy, you need a program that you can follow. And then you need to think about what kind of a program split you're going to be doing. So you want to be prioritizing the areas of your body that are injured. And so the way you would do that, there's really the way that I look at program splits is I look at you're either training an odd number of days in a week or you're training an even number of days in the week. And if you're training an even number of days, I hope you guys, if you're injured, I hope you can commit to more than 2 workouts a week. If you can't, that's okay. We can still make something work for you. But I really hope that you're going to commit to at least 3 or 4 workouts a week if you're serious about your training, if you're serious about your goals, and if you want to crush those goals without being injured. So if you're looking at training an even number of workouts in a week, you're most likely looking at 4 workouts. Maybe you're an overachiever and looking at 6 workouts. Then you can create what I call an even balanced program split, because you can do 2 upper body strength days and 2 lower body strength days if you're doing 4 days a week, or 3 and 3 if you're doing 6 days a week. But if you're doing an odd number of days, and this is very common, people that can do 3 workouts a week, or maybe they can do 5 workouts a week, maybe they're a bit of a higher achiever. If that's you, then prioritize the area of the body that is injured. So if you have a shoulder injury, if you have an elbow injury, if you have a wrist injury, then do the more number of days on that part of the body group. So let's say you're doing 3 days a week, you do 2 upper body days, 1 lower body day. So that's the first thing to do. Second thing to do is to combine strength and flexibility into your workouts, where you are doing, if you're doing an upper body workout, you are also doing lower body strength. Because if you've got a shoulder injury, for example, you're going to be doing, and I'll be talking about this soon, you're going to be doing a lot of stabilization work, you're going to be doing a lot of rotator cuff and scapular stabilization work, and you'll be doing a lot of exercises that kind of feel like for you, like you're not really pushing yourself that hard. And there's going to be rest between your sets. There'll be times where you'll be pairing your exercises together. I'll talk about that in a minute. You'll be doing one exercise, you'll be resting, then you'll be doing an exercise that trains opposing muscle groups. And during that rest period, that is the perfect time to do flexibility on the other area of your body. Because don't make the mistake of thinking, hey, I've got this injury, this is the only thing I'm going to train for, I'm going to fix this shoulder injury, and then my life's going to be great. Because if you neglect other areas of your body, you're just going to come up with injuries that you didn't know were there, or you're going to be reminded of injuries that you had years ago that you'd forgotten about. So you don't want to be looking at your body where you think, okay, I've got this injury, I'm just going to fix this injury, and then I'll be able to go back to playing pickleball or basketball or football or MMA or jiu-jitsu or whatever it is that you love to do, as long as this injury is fixed. Because our body is a system. And, the injury that you're feeling is just the weak link in the system that has broken down. But there are other links in that system that are going to be weaker if you make that shoulder stronger. I'm just using the shoulder as an example. So flexibility is a part of that, right? You want to be strong and flexible. So best way to do it, if you're doing an upper body workout, between your sets of upper body strength training, you do lower body flexibility, and vice versa. So when you're doing a lower body workout, when you're doing a squat or a deadlift session, between your sets of your squat, your deadlift, and whatever exercise you're pairing it with, you'll do upper body flexibility. It's such an efficient way that you can train. You can get an incredible workout done in 40 to 60 minutes where you get strength and flexibility done. The next thing to do is to train for structural balance. So to avoid injury, the best way to do it is to train for structural balance. And the way that you do that is you do pushing and pulling in a 1-to-1 ratio. And that works for the lower body as well. I'll talk to you about that in just a second. So for upper body strength workouts, you do horizontal pushing and pulling in one workout, and you do vertical pushing and pulling in another workout. So you're working both planes of motion. If you've got a bad enough shoulder injury, you won't start with vertical push pulling at all. Vertical pushing and pulling is going to be much more demanding, and it's potentially going to make your injury worse when you're starting. So you'd start with horizontal pushing and pulling, and then by using progressive overload, you would eventually get to vertical pushing and pulling. And I'll talk about progressive overload in a minute. So you do a 1-to-1 ratio of push and pull in every workout. So that means if you do one set of chest press, then you rest, and then you do one set of some form of a row. My favorite exercises to start with for beginners are ring rows. Ring rows are a brilliant rowing exercise to start with for many reasons. One of them is that it's a closed kinetic chain movement like a pull-up, which means that your hands are fixed in place while your body moves through space, as opposed to an open kinetic chain movement like a bent over row, where your body is fixed in place and your arms are free to move in space. That's very, very technical. You don't really need to understand that to get results, but I'm just explaining it for you guys that want to know. But because a ring row is a closed kinetic chain movement and a pull-up is a closed kinetic chain movement, they carry over to each other really, really well. So a ring row will help you progress to a pull-up better than a bent over row will. But a ring row is also really, really good because it doesn't put any strain on the lower back. And when you're starting out in your gym workouts and you're going to be doing deadlifts and squats and things like that, things that put load on your lower back, then a bent over row is also putting load on the lower back, because you're bending over and you're doing your rows there and your lumbar extensors are performing an isometric contraction, which means where the muscles aren't lengthening or shortening during the contraction, and they're performing that contraction during the exercise, which is putting load on the lower back, something that you don't need to do. Anyway, I digress. So pushing and pulling, 1-to-1 ratio. Also for structural balance for the upper body, we need to be doing inner and outer unit strength training. So that means that in the same workout as you do your chest press and your bent over row, you want to do some rotator cuff work, some external rotation work, and you also want to be doing potentially some scapular stabilizer work. So the scapular stabilizer work, it depends how long you've got to work out, how many workouts you can do in a week. General Ming, I'm going to get to your questions in a minute. Then what we're going to be doing for structural balance training as well, actually I should say first with the inner unit and outer unit training, when you're doing your pushing and pulling workout, you want to be prioritizing external rotation work of the rotator cuff. Why? Because the internal rotators, so the rotator cuff has external rotators and it has internal rotators. And the internal rotators are pretty active during pressing exercises. They do a bit of that work during pressing, but the external rotators are not active during rowing exercises. So we need to train those to create structural balance. Otherwise, you're going to continue to have shoulder injuries. Then the other thing we want to do with structural balance is we want to train unilateral movements for the left and right side. So we want to be doing things with dumbbells and barbells. Barbells are a bilateral movement, so both of the limbs are pushing the weight at the same time, and your stronger side will do more of the work towards the end of the set. So you want to be doing unilateral work as well. So that's structural balance for the shoulders. For the lower body, we still look at doing pushing and pulling. So you still think of training the quadriceps and the hamstrings. So in a squat workout, where even though in a squat, the squat uses almost every muscle group in the legs during the squat pattern, but it doesn't use as much hamstrings as it uses quadriceps. It relies more on the quadriceps and more on the glutes, even though it does use the hamstrings a little bit. So in your squat workout, you want to pair some hamstring work in there. But I should say this, you should not pair hamstrings with squats. In the way that I said before, where you pair your chest press with your row, don't pair squats with hamstrings, because the same muscle groups are being used in both exercises, which means you're not getting enough rest before you go back to doing your squats. A better pairing for squats is squats and calf raises, because the calves are active in the very first range of motion of a squat if you go in ass to grass squat, but they do very little part of the movement, so you can still train them in between your sessions, your sets of squats. So squats paired with calf raises is a really good way to pair lower body. And then you would do hamstring curls in your supplementary workout. So once you've done your primary workout where you do your hamstrings and your squats and your shoulder flexibility, you then move into your supplementary circuit where you're going to be doing, for example, some hamstring work, maybe a little bit more focus on the quadriceps if you want that, if you need that. Actually, I should say this, for a structural balance workout, what you should be doing is when you do your hamstring workout in the supplementary circuit, you should also do knee stabilization work, because the knee stabilizers need to be worked. And you do that with things like step-ups. So low step-ups, side step-ups, front step-ups, heel elevated step-ups, step-downs, things like that. And then you can also do some core work as well in your lower body strength workout. Why? Because you need to do core training if you want to be balanced in your body. Core training is going to help with lower back pain as well. And I find it best to put it in a lower body workout, because in an upper body workout, there's so many different muscle groups and so many different movements that we have to do that there's not a lot of space for core training. So I like to do it in my lower body workout. Excuse me. So that's what structural balance training means in a nutshell. Again, if you want to just get all this done for you, come and join the UMS right now. You can do it at an incredible discount and get online coaching from me if you go to unitygym.com/UMS-discount. You can get it for 38% off, first 20 people only, and we've already sold 6 of them. So if you want to do that and you don't want to have to ask me questions and worry about if you're doing this right or not, that's a great opportunity for you guys to get started. So the next thing that I would do, so what have I covered? I've covered that be clear on your goals, be clear on the program split that you want to do, have a plan, come into the gym with a plan. Don't come into the gym scratching your head, looking around, oh, that machine's free, I'll have a go at that. No, come into the gym with a plan every day. Your plan should use structural balance within the workouts. And the reason why structural balance works so well is because when you train for structural balance, you will fix 90% of your aches and pains. I guarantee it. Next thing that you want to be doing is using periodization. And periodization is where it starts getting difficult for somebody that doesn't know how to do it. So I will do my best to explain it to you, but no matter how good I explain it, I doubt you're going to get it right without having somebody write a periodized program for you. Why? Even when I was a professional coach, meaning that I'd done all my professional qualification training and I was out there coaching people, it took me years to understand how to write periodized programs that were effective and that were safe. It took a long time to know, because you've got to know which exercises you use first that are safer and which exercises you use second that are a little bit more challenging, and then third and fourth, and so on and so on. Periodization is the process of where you change certain variables of your program to continue to adapt, because the whole purpose of doing a workout is to achieve adaptation in the body. So what do I mean by that? You go and do a workout, it's tough, and the body goes, "Oh, that was tough. I want to make that easier next time I do it," and it adapts by becoming either stronger, more flexible, fitter, or any combination of those things. And so that's what the purpose of a workout is. You go and do a workout, you create a stimulus, and your body goes, "Oh, I better adapt to that," and it adapts. But if you keep doing the same workouts over and over again, your body will stop adapting. It will plateau. It will come to a point, usually after about the 4 to 8 week mark, less for people that are more experienced. People that are more experienced will need less time between periodized programs, and people that are less experienced can go for longer periods of time before they need a new program. But eventually you will plateau, and no matter what you do, you will not be able to break through that plateau without using periodization. And for any of you that have been training for a while, you will have experienced this. You'll have this, "Man, it doesn't matter how hard I try, I just can't get better at pull-ups," or "It doesn't matter what I do, I can't increase the weight in my bench press," whatever it is. And it's because you don't understand periodization, you don't understand how to do it properly. So what periodization is when you change any or all of these 5 variables. Number 1 is exercise selection. Number 2 is intensity, which has an inverse relationship with the amount of reps that you do per set. So that means how heavy you're lifting. So going from a program phase of doing 8 to 10 reps per set to doing a program phase where you do 5 reps per set. That would be changing intensity. Next is tempo, the speed at which you perform the concentric phase, the eccentric phase, and the rest periods between each of the phase. So if you don't know what that means, the concentric phase is where the muscle shortens. So in a bicep curl, it's this part. That's the concentric phase. That's where the bicep is shortening. And the eccentric phase is where the muscle is lengthening. So it's that part. So in a bicep curl, it's when the bicep is lengthening. So that's tempo. Third is rest between sets. So how much rest are you taking between sets? And then, sorry, that's fourth. What am I saying? Third. And then fifth is overload technique. So also what overload technique you are using. So by changing any or all of those variables, we are using program periodization. So you can change even just one of them, but we usually change several of them in each program phase. And when you do that, you will continue to make progress. And in the earlier phases, if you're training to fix injury, to overcome aches and pains, and to be able to hit 2025 with the ground running, then this whole strategy that I'm talking to you about, periodization should follow a system where you start with exercises that are easier on the body to do, and then you progress to exercises that are more challenging. And there is a structured approach to all exercises that we use in a structural balance program, where you can do this effectively over 3 or 4 program phases. So for example, with a deadlift, if you had a bad enough back injury, you would start with a hang deadlift, because a hang deadlift, where the bar starts just below your knees, you're reducing the range of motion. And you would even start it with the bar sitting on a set of boxes. So you'd have the bar set up where when it touches these boxes, it doesn't go just below your kneecap. And it dramatically reduces the range of motion, but allows you to still strengthen the posterior chain and strengthen the deadlift pattern without flaring up your injuries. And I have had people with the worst injuries, with herniated discs, with bulging discs. I mean, I've got spondylolisthesis, and a pars fracture in L4 and L5. So I have my own fair share of really bad lower back injuries. I have no pain anymore, but I've gone through this process myself. So I can promise you that it works. Not only have I gone through it myself, I've put hundreds, probably by now thousands of people through it. And I've watched some of the best sports physical therapists in Australia put client after client after client with lower back problems through this same process, and it works. So don't be thinking that deadlifts are a bad exercise and that you can't do them because you've got a lower back injury. The reason why you can't do them is because you don't understand this process that I'm sharing with you. So anyway, so if you start with a hang deadlift and then you lowered the height of the hang deadlift down to a regular conventional barbell deadlift in your next phase, and then you could go to a wide grip deadlift and then a snatch grip deadlift eventually, that would be an example of using the exercise selection variable for program periodization for the deadlift movement pattern. Another example could be starting with a flat dumbbell chest press, moving to a 15-degree dumbbell chest press, and then moving to a 30-degree dumbbell chest press over 3 program phases to gradually challenge the shoulder more if you have a shoulder injury and shoulder pain and pressing hurts you. Because you start on a horizontal plane where your hands are pushing like this, and then you move to a slightly more challenging plane and a slightly more challenging plane, bringing you closer and closer to doing vertical shoulder vertical pushing and pulling, shoulder pressing. So those are examples of how you would use exercise selection. So we've now talked about being clear on your goals. We've talked about having your program splits. We've talked about creating a structural balance workout. And now we've talked about using periodization to get you through several program phases and progressively overload your body to be able to handle the work that you want to be doing, because you need to be safe. And one of the biggest mistakes that people make when they start a new fitness journey in a new year is that they just go too hard too soon. I have seen it so many times, and it falls into the category of beating up the body that you hate rather than cherishing the body that you love and nourishing the body that you love. You know, it's people that have this mentality of where they look in the mirror and they're disgusted by what they see, or they hate their body and they're going to beat it back into submission. You know, I'm going to go to the gym 5 days a week and I am going to just get all this fat off and build that muscle and get myself to the point that I want to be at. And I honestly, if you think about it, I mean, maybe you guys aren't aware of this. Maybe this is something that only people that work in the gym are aware of it. But when you work in the fitness industry and you look at in the new year, in January, there are so many more people in the gym. It is not even funny. It's like, it is so packed in January. Everybody has the same goal. People come in and they really want to get in shape. You know, the New Year's resolutions are in full swing. And by February, it's already died off. And by March, it's like a ghost town again. And so much of it comes from people overcommitting, not having a plan, losing motivation, or injuring themselves. And so the ones that I want to talk about mostly are overcommitting and injuring yourself. So when you go in and you just go hard and you're like, man, I'm going to go so hard. I'm going to do cardio on this day. I'm going to smash myself. I'm going to burn 1,000 calories in a workout. You're just asking for problems, because your body is deconditioned. You haven't been training for a long time, and you certainly haven't been training to that intensity. So the process that I'm talking about, where you use periodization and you follow a structural balance program, it's designed to progressively overload the body and progressively take your body to that point where you can then train hard. And so you set yourself up for success, where by the time you get to, about March, April, that's the period where you're like, okay, my body's really prepared for this. Now I can up the ante. Now I can start doing some heavier lifts. Now I can start pushing myself more in some HIIT workouts, and I'm not going to injure myself. And I guarantee you, if you approach it like that, you will have a better chance of success with your goals in 2025 than if you come into it with the all or nothing mentality, where you're just thinking, man, I'm just going to smash myself. I'm going to hit these goals. I'm going to get it quick. I'm going to get it hard. I'm going to get it fast. It won't work for you. So and the way, a big part of that I'll talk about quickly, and then General Ming, I am going to answer your questions, is progressive overload. Progressive overload is something that you do in every single workout, if you can. So I'll tell you what progressive overload is, and then I'll tell you what I mean by if you can. So progressive overload, in the best explanation that I've heard of progressive overload is like this. If you picked up a set of 10-pound dumbbells and you did bicep curls, and you could do 8 reps, you couldn't do 9 reps to save your life if somebody was pointing a gun to your head. And so you did 3 sets of 8 reps, and you did that 2 or 3 times a week. In the second week, you would more than likely be able to do 9 reps per set. And in the third week, you would more than likely be able to do 10 reps per set. And once you can do 10 reps for all 3 sets, you then go from 10-pound dumbbells to 12.5-pound dumbbells, which would mean, because you've gone up in weight, there's that inverse relationship with how much you can lift. Increase the weight, you're going to reduce the amount of reps you can do. You go back down to 8 reps, but now you're lifting 12.5 pounds, and you repeat the same process over and over again. That is progressive overload. And Panther Black has given me a $10 donation on YouTube. Thank you so much, and Merry Christmas, brother. I love that you're loving the program. You've said, Merry Christmas, Rad. Have loved the program thus far. I found a strengthening stretch that I have never seen before for posterior impingement of the capsule that I think might be worth adding to your app. Okay, cool. Well, you let me know, man, and I will have a look at it. And you never know, it might be in my app and you just haven't seen it yet because it's in the more advanced program phases. But let me know, please. Send me a message in the app and I'll have a look at it. So back to progressive overload. So progressive overload is something that you can do and you should be striving for in almost every workout, but only when technique is correct. And for a beginner, for somebody in the earlier phases of a structural balance training program, it's likely the technique isn't correct yet. So you never, ever, ever sacrifice good technique so that you can do more weight or more reps. Let that sink in. Never sacrifice good technique so you can do more weight or more reps. So this is why it's really good to film yourself, even if you're not working with a coach like me online. Film yourself. I really hope that you understand how to do the exercise correctly that you're trying to do and what the coaching cues are. And then you can look at yourself and go, oh, okay, so my knees were wobbling in or my back was rounding or I'm doing that. I'm going to fix that up. And only when you can do all of the reps in your set with correct technique do you then progress to more reps or more weight. All right, so I am going to jump in here and answer a couple of questions here. So General Ming is saying, am I late? No, you're not late. You're on time. Your MRI, assessment 1, moderate tendinopathy of the supraspinatus tendon without evidence of a dedicated tear, subtle bone marrow edema in the dorsolateral aspect of the humeral head, and the insertion of the infraspinatus tendon likely attributed to chronic traction stress on the infraspinatus tendon. No indication of significant bicep tendonitis. I don't have the best posture, by the way. Man, that is not a bad MRI at all. There's not a lot going on there that's that bad. You could fix that real easy if you started doing the right training. All you've got is a little bit of tendinopathy in the supraspinatus tendon. Moderate tendinopathy can be fixed pretty easily if you do the right things. And the basic understanding of tendinopathy, a lot of people used to call it tendinosis. I shouldn't say that. A lot of people call it tendinosis. That's actually the correct term has been changed to tendinopathy. I can't remember why, but our resident physiotherapist Phil says it all the time. So the basic treatment for tendinopathy is to strength train the area, but that means to strength train everything in the area. So this is why I just talked about a structural balance workout. So you've got tendinopathy in the supraspinatus tendon. So that's the part of the rotator cuff that connects onto the top of the scapula here and hooks down under the acromion process and onto the top of the humerus there. It's the most common rotator cuff injury to have by a country mile. More people have supraspinatus tendon problems than any other rotator cuff muscle. So it's very, very common. And the supraspinatus is very active in external rotation and also in abduction like this. And so you need to train those movements to make it stronger, but you also need to train the entire rotator cuff. Like you need to, if you're going to do some external rotation work, do some internal rotation work as well. But then you also need to make the shoulder as strong as possible. When you make the shoulder really, really strong, these kinds of tendinopathies and things like that just seem to go away because you're strong enough to handle the work that you're doing. So if you follow the strategy that I've talked about in this workout and you choose the right exercise in this video and you choose the right exercises, you are going to see significant improvements in that issue. And PRP, I can't remember what it's called, platelet replacement something, whatever it's called, plasma replacement, I can't remember what it's called, but I've heard that it's really, really good. And if it was something that was more accessible to me in Australia we have to pay for that ourselves out of our own pocket. It's just not accessible to me. platelet-rich plasma. There you go. I've heard that it's really, really good. I would get it in my shoulder. I would get it in my knee. I'd basically get it in all the areas where I've had injuries, you know, to assist in the recovery and the repair of them. I've heard that it's really, really good. So let me know how it works for you. But that said, there is absolutely no surgical intervention that you will ever be able to do that will replace strength training. You will still need to do strength training, because even if the PRP works and helps to reduce the pain, you still need to make your tendons strong enough that they can handle whatever it is that you were doing that caused the tendinopathy in the first place. So you still need to do strength training. General Ming is saying same, but I added some more comments after my MRI. Yep, oh, you don't have the best posture. Yep, well, work on that too in your program. You can. That's a whole nother topic, but I've got so many videos on how to fix posture. I used to have really bad posture as well. And you also can't do wall slides because your left side, the side with the pain, doesn't have external rotation motion like your right. I have videos on that too. I've got videos on all of this, so if you go to my channel, you'll be able to see it all. Panther Black is saying it's not going to change the biomechanics of the strength deficiency. That's exactly right. You're saying you've had 4 PRP injections. Yeah, well, there you go. Did they help? Did they help with what you were dealing with at all, Panther Black? I'm curious to know. So, yeah, they're absolutely not going to help with the strength deficiencies. That's the thing, you know, like any surgical intervention that you're going to do. Like I had a... I'm really showing here that I'm not a medical specialist. I can't remember. I can never remember what it's called. I think it's called a cortisone injection, the steroid injection that you get when you've had an injury like a slap tear, you know, for example. I got that in my first slap tear. I've had a slap tear in both shoulders, and I got a cortisone injection I got the steroid injection in the first one, and I did that after 6 weeks after I was desperate. And when I got that first slap tear, I didn't know how to fix a slap tear. I didn't know what I was dealing with. I didn't know the severity of it. I didn't know the rehabilitation process. It was over the next 12 months of working with the physical therapists that were in my gym that I learned what I now know now, that's made me an expert on slap tear rehabilitation. And not knowing what I know now, I went out and I got a cortisone injection because I was so desperate to fix it. And I honestly wish that I didn't do it, because I was explained. Actually, I shouldn't say that. I ignored what I'm about to say now, and I didn't really understand the impact of it. But I was explained that you can't ever really get more than 2 cortisone injections on any area of the body, because they do permanent damage and permanent weakening to the tendons of the muscles that you're getting the cortisone injection to. They permanently weaken the tendons. It's basically short-term gain for long-term pain. And what it did for me was it gave me a literal immediate reduction in pain. It immediately allowed me to train more. And fortunately enough, I had Phil there who was saying to me, well, look, if you're going to get a cortisone injection, then you absolutely want to use it to strength train so that you can make the area stronger, because all it is a short-term fix. And if you don't make the area stronger, then in 6 months' time, that pain's going to be right back and you're going to be feeling like you need another injection. So I used it to really train, and I achieved a lot in that 6 months. But sure enough, in 6 months, the pain came back worse than what I'd been dealing with over the last couple of months, where the steroid injection was doing its job. And I looked into getting another steroid injection, and fortunately enough for me, I've got an incredible network of professionals. And the guy who was doing the steroid injection for me, the doctor, was a member of my gym. And so I was able to talk to him as a friend, because I'd been training him every day for about 3 or 4 years. And he said to me, Rad, you do not want to get a second steroid injection. I would only even do it if you insisted, but for most people, I would never do a second injection, because it causes so much damage to the tendons that they just don't recover from it. So I'm saying this to you, I'm telling you this because when I had my second slap tear and I knew all of this, I didn't get a steroid injection, and my that shoulder is now so much better than this shoulder. When I say that I can train pain-free and I can do everything pain-free, I can. But this shoulder still causes me a little bit of discomfort sometimes. And it's usually if I haven't trained for a week, or if I drink alcohol, or if I eat foods that cause chronic inflammation like sugar and gluten and dairy and things like that. then I'll get a little bit of aches and pains for the next couple of days in this shoulder. Never feel anything in this shoulder. Quite possible that it's because of the steroid injection that I have. Singing Dancing Muscle Man saying, filming yourself can really be a game changer when it comes to maintaining proper lifting form while making progressions. It absolutely can. Panther Black saying, PRP healed a partial tricep tendon tear along with strengthening. Yep. PRP also makes the inflammation 10 times worse for 1 to 2 weeks. Very painful. Wow. I did not know that. General Ming is saying, I did your external rotation exercise to increase range of motion, but it made the pain worse. Look, ma'am, there is, you're saying that you've done one exercise that you've seen on one of my YouTube videos and it didn't work for you. Unfortunately, I don't know if that exercise was right for you. I need to have a look at the way that you move and then potentially give you different exercises, because I have a whole ensemble of rotator cuff exercises that I program to people depending on their symptoms and their conditions, what it is that's going on in their body. And then we also need to modify certain exercises. Sometimes we need to change the range of motion. Sometimes we need to change the tempo. Lots of different ways that we can modify exercises. Panther Black saying, rad, I've had a cortisone shot, one hydrodilation shot into the rear capsule, one stem cell into the supratear, which healed, but pinching pain persisted. MRI confirmed severe adhesive capsulitis. So much so my coracoid process ligament was 1.5 times the size. Wow. How's it going now? Keep an eye out in my email, all right? I will. I'll have a look in my email. And General Ming is saying, I'm suffering for 2 years now. I also had more range of motion during when I took ibuprofen. After that, the range of motion decreased again. Yeah, man, because that's an anti-inflammatory. But, oh, excuse me. This is what happens when you do live streams at 5:30 a.m. and you don't drink coffee. I'm definitely still half asleep. Yeah, look, you're anti-inflammatories are definitely something that are useful to use, and I do use them when things get bad enough, but I avoid them like the plague. Like, I really try to avoid them. There are cases, in severe cases, people have developed stomach ulcers from ibuprofen. And I heard this from a chiropractor friend, but he reads medical journals, which I don't. I have friends who are in the game who love to read medical journals, and I get my information from them, from people that I know and trust who have been in the industry for a long time. Anyway, one of my chiropractor friends told me that in the US there are 20 deaths a year on average from people taking ibuprofen and getting stomach ulcers that open up and cause an internal bleed where they basically eat themselves to death. They digest their own blood until they die. And apparently there's 20 people a year on average that happens to. So not saying that's going to happen to you. That's obviously in a rare and extreme case, and I don't know the amount of ibuprofen that these people were taking. But that said, I have been told many, many times by many people who are very credible that you want to be very, very wary of how many ibuprofens you take, and it's why they say on the packet must be taken with food. So do not rely on ibuprofen to get through life. You need to find a way to manage your pain, and the only long-term solution that I have ever seen is strength training, flexibility a little bit, but much less than strength training when it comes to a supraspinatus tear. So I really hope that that helps. And look, honestly, like in a nutshell, I'm going to try and give you the best information that I can give you. Start with external rotation, where your elbow is right near the body. So start with doing exercises where your elbow is here and you're doing your external rotation like that. So you can either use it with a band that's coming down from the door down there, or you can do it. You can also put like a towel under your elbow so it keeps the elbow stabilized like that. Or you can lay down on your side and you can do it with a dumbbell if you don't have a band. And then progress to having your elbow out here with less support, and then progress to having your elbow out here and eventually progress to having your hand up here. When you bring your arm up here, you can start by doing your external rotations this way. That's easier. And then you can bring your elbow out to here and do your external rotations out there, which is the most challenging way you'll do external rotations. And you use progressive overload. Go back and watch this episode again, the way that I described how you use progressive overload. And work the pain-free range only. So when you're doing the exercise, if you get to a point where it hurts to go further, don't go beyond that point. So that might mean that all you're doing is you're working that range of motion to start with, and then use progressive overload to get to that range of motion, and then use progressive overload to get here, and so on and so forth. And that will mean that you'll have to start with very, very light weights or very, very light resistance. Then also always work with a slow tempo. Never do fast changes in direction. Never go like this, like that. It should be a slow controlled concentric, and then a very slow 3-second eccentric. Then a slow controlled concentric, very slow controlled eccentric. Keep the scapula depressed at all times. Never let the scapula elevate. Do not let the scapula retract and protract during the exercise. The shoulder should be fixed in place and the elbow should be fixed in place, so that the only movement that's happening is external rotation of the humerus. So you do not want the shoulder blade to be like, you don't want to be externally rotating like that and then internally rotating like that. So you got to film yourself to make sure you're doing all of this right, because I bet you, if I watched a video of you, this is exactly the stuff that I'd be saying. I would wager everything that I own in life that if I watched a video of you, I'd be telling you to keep your scapula depressed, keep your elbows still, don't move your body, and don't retract and protract your shoulder blade. And then, as I said, use progressive overload only when you can do pain-free for the required reps. Oh, and work, for the time being, work between the 8 and 12 rep range. So that means once you can do 12 reps, you increase the amount of weight that you can do and you drop back down to 8 reps. Do that, and I'm sure that you are going to see a reduction in pain and an increase in capability, and do that every second day. You can either do 3 to 5 sets every second day, or you can do 2 to 3 sets every day. And if you do 2 to 3 sets every day, you have to do it at a lower intensity. If you're doing 3 to 5 sets every second day, you can do it at a higher intensity. That's in a nutshell how to do it. I really hope that helps you. Yeah, when you put a towel under your shoulder, you feel a burn in your lateral head. What happens is that I don't have pain during training, but 1 to 2 days after. That's not good. That means that you are going too hard. Pain during training that doesn't occur, that doesn't last after the workout, is completely fine. Pain that comes on after the workout, that's a problem. And that's why you're not getting better. It's because you're pushing too hard during your workouts. You're not listening to your body. You're not understanding how to moderate the load so that you can continue to make progress without making pain. And Panther Black's given me another $5 donation. You're a legend, man. I love everything that you do for me. And he said, thank you for everything again. Keep an eye out in your inbox for that exercise. Game changer for me. Only one video on all the internet I've ever seen. All right, I'll have a look at it. And if it is that much of a game changer, I'll do a video on it myself. And General Ming is saying, I'm also planning on combining PRP and strengthening external rotation, serratus anterior, and mid-lower trap and rhomboids. Strengthening external rotation, serratus anterior. Yeah, that's a great strategy. The strategy is sound. The problem is, it sounds like you're not doing it properly. That's the problem. Like, this is, and I know that you've already told me that coaching is out of your budget, which is why I'm trying to help you here for free on YouTube. But I'm telling you right now, everybody that's listening, this is why coaching is so important, because so many people have the right strategy, but it's not working for them. And the reason why it's not working for them is because they don't have somebody that knows what they're doing looking at them going, you've got to keep your shoulder like this, or you've got to do it like that, or you've got to reduce the weight, or you shouldn't be doing that exercise yet, you should be doing this exercise, and all this stuff, and you don't know what you don't know. So the strategy of I'm going to strengthen external rotation, mid and lower trap and serratus anterior, that is a very, very good strategy. And I'll tell you why. We want to strengthen the external rotation because that's what the supraspinatus is predominantly It's active in external rotation, so you will be strengthening the supraspinatus. That's very, very important. We also talked about before how during pressing movements, the internal rotators of the rotator cuff are pretty active. So that's the subscapularis. It's quite active during pressing, whereas the external rotators, they only get worked during external rotation. Well, actually, that's not true, but you need to train them separately to just doing your pushing and pulling exercises. And then there's this relationship between the strength of the upper trap versus mid and lower trap. So there's three areas of the trapezius. There's the upper trapezius, which is here. There's the mid trapezius, which is on my back, here. And then there's the lower trapezius, okay, on my back down there. And there's a relationship between the strength of the upper trapezius versus the mid and lower trapezius, where a lot of people are upper trap dominant. They've got too much strength in the upper traps, and that imbalance leaves the shoulder at risk of injury. Okay, so saying I want to strengthen the mid and lower trapezius, great idea. That's a great strategy, because most people are upper trap dominant, and you are prone to shoulder injury because the mid and lower traps aren't strong enough. So great strategy. Then saying that you want to strengthen your serratus anterior. Again, there's a force coupling on the scapula, the shoulder blade, between the serratus anterior on the front. So the serratus anterior from the medial border of I'm pointing to my back here, but this is where my shoulder blade sits on my back, right? The medial border of the scapula wrapping around down onto a bunch of the ribs is the serratus anterior, and when it contracts, it protracts the shoulder blade. It also acts in elevation as well. And there's a force coupling between that and the trapezius. They both basically pull against the scapula on either sides to create what's called a force coupling. And so an imbalance between those two muscle systems, where if one muscle system is stronger than the other one, that creates an environment in the shoulder where you are prone to injury. So the strategy is bang on, but it sounds to me like you're not executing it correctly, because if you were executing it correctly, you wouldn't be feeling pain 1 to 2 days after your workout. And this is the most likely cause. You are most likely lifting too much weight for what your body can handle with correct technique. And that would go for all of the exercises. I cannot count the amount of times that people come into the UMS online coaching and they want to show me their scapular push-up to planche lean or their scapular push-up to assisted tuck planche, but they can't yet do 3 reps of scapular push-up with correct technique. It is such a hard exercise to get right that I often program other exercises before even doing a scapular push-up, because it is so challenging. So things like foam roller wall runs or inverted kettlebell presses are brilliant exercises to train the scapula, the serratus anterior before progressing to scapular push-ups. Also, side-lying dumbbell raises as well, which I can't really demonstrate at the moment here because I need to do it on a bench. So yeah, man, your strategy is sound, but the execution of it isn't working. So there's something needs to change. You're saying during the day, randomly when I move my arm, I get pain in the supraspinatus, and I can't predict when it just happens. Yeah, that is a classic supraspinatus tear. It's a classic shoulder injury. You'll just be walking around, nothing will happen, and you'll go to reach for something, and you'll go, like that. That was happening to me for years after my slap tears. It took years for that to fix. Gazale, great to see you on the live stream. Gazale is one of our UMS online coaching tribe members. It's great to have you here. I love when you guys jump on the live stream. And Gazale is saying, this program has really been helping me with my pain. Strengthening my joints has been a game changer. Joint stabilizers, I should say. I noticed I was advancing my weights fast just because I could, but then it hurt me the next day. So going slow and steady has been key. Yeah, and look at the progress you've been making as well, Gazale. You're just killing it. So good. Singing Dancing Muscle Man is saying, remember to like the live stream, everyone. Yeah, thank you so much, man. And thank you for reminding me. I should say that any of you guys that are watching this, we've got a lot of people on the live stream now, a lot of people that haven't even said hello to me. Say hello, say hi from Oregon, or hi from Canada, or hi from Germany. Let me know where you're watching so that I can give you a shout out. I'd love to know who you are, where you are in the world. And if you are watching, please hit that like button, like my live stream, but more importantly, subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to my YouTube channel, because a staggering 85% of people that watch our videos aren't subscribed to the channel. Sorry, I just say it like that because I see a lot of other YouTubers say that one and it makes me laugh. So please hit that subscribe button. It's so quick and easy for you, and it really helps us to get the content out there. So I really hope that helps you guys. I hope that's taught you something valuable, because I enjoyed talking about it, and I can talk about this stuff until the cows come home. As I said, it's the 30th of December today. I'm going to my sister-in-law's tomorrow pretty early with my wife and my son. We're doing a quiet little New Year's family celebration. We're starting early, and we're going to be setting up a pool for our kids and doing all that fun stuff. So I will try to get here for a live stream tomorrow. I definitely won't be here on the 1st of January. My wife will kill me. That's a public holiday as well. But I'll be back on the 2nd of January. So get your questions in for the topics that you want me to talk about. Otherwise, I'm going to continue talking about structural balance training. And General Ming, shoulder cracking is normal if you've had a shoulder injury like that. I've got another video on that as well. You should go to my YouTube channel and in the search bar, type in the things that you want to learn about, because I've made videos on all this stuff before. And I made a video on shoulder cracking cracking with a shoulder injury only about 3 or 4 weeks ago. Pretty recent. So go and watch that video because it will teach you a lot. And thank you so much for watching everybody. Merry Christmas. I'll see you guys all tomorrow. If I don't see you tomorrow, I'll see you in 2025. How crazy is that? Have a wonderful day.